Hi out there in the YouTube world. This is an ancient zodiac depiction, and this video is going to be titled, "What is spirituality? How does this link to the zodiacs?" It was on my phone. But to the video. So, why are so many of you out there so dumb when it comes to spirituality? And I know a lot of you might get offended when you hear that word dumb. And that just means like uneducated or uninformed, unaware. So don't get offended. And if you're one of the people who already are really aware, then pay attention, because you'll probably learn something in this video. Or it'll help to give you perspective on the world around you. Now, I'm going to show you something else that's really interesting. This is a big map. Okay. This is an ancient map of the world. It was drawn by Ptolemy. And it shows all the continents pretty much how they are. The coastlines have changed. But this is a map from like 2,000 years ago. It was drawn up around the time of Christ. And there's a lot of places in the world that were storehouses of information from about ancient cultures, or about actually, like, if you want to think about it, it's actually our ancient history, because through the risings and fallings of lots of different cultures, you know, you want to talk about the Romans or the Phoenicians, the Babylonians, the Aztecs, whatever culture you want to reference. Here's something I want you to really think about, is that even though these cultures have risen and fallen, some have gone like extinct, you could say. Well, humanity, that's us, like, you know, flesh and bone, our DNA, has never been completely wiped out, or we would be extinct. And another key thing with this genetic lineage that links us back to our ancient past, which links to Alexandria, and before like the great fall of spirituality, because as I showed you in this picture, it shows all of the zodiacs, and guess who's in the middle? It's Jesus, or Yahshua, or Emmanuel, or whatever you would like to call him, because, to be honest, the true name has been lost through time, I think, because for a lot of you Christianity people out there, they didn't even have the letter J 2,000 years ago, okay? Like, it's like from Yahshua, like there's a translationary issue, and if you actually research the name of Christ, there's many sources that validate what I'm saying. But, yeah, to some more of my points. They burned down Alexandria, okay? So there has been people in the world that have been wanting to suppress information, and information is very important when it comes to like linking people and ways of thought, because just like the risings and fallings of ancient cultures, like the Romans and the Greeks and all that, they had methodologies and ways of thinking that, you know, shaped the world around them. And it's really like, you know, when they talk about seeing the world through rose-colored glasses, well, you see the world through your conditioning, and that's basically like your glasses. And when we look back at ancient times, and or like if we want to like fast forward to more recent, when there was like the churches, the Roman Catholic Church, when they took over a lot of the world, you know, like with the Vatican, a lot of the history has been like rewritten and they forced upon a lot of people, the natives, the Indians, the indigenous people, indigenous meaning they were there first, like that's actually the land they came from. When it was taken away from them, there was a new kind of Sim City methodology and paradigm and way of thinking that was instilled. And just take a moment to think of how you view, there's family image, like how a normal family is maintained, like with mother, father, like kind of relations, a family dynamic. All of this is laid out very clearly in the Bible, and it's been drilled very heavily into all of your brains. Now, I'm going to show you that zodiac picture one more time. Because that's not just Jesus in the middle, and it's not witchcraft or evil. They used to know themselves really well back in the day. And you know who's in the middle? The Son, right? Jesus, or Emmanuel, Yahshua, whatever you'd like to call him. Guess who else that is? You, okay? And that's very important, because astrology links to like how you think, and we all think differently. And it's not about getting recognition from the world. It's about understanding your true self. And when you truly understand yourself, it'll give you better perspective on other people when you understand the differences in the zodiac signs. Because we're not all the same, okay? But yeah, we also used to be very heavily linked to nature, and we had like a symbiotic relationship, and we realized that we're all special and unique, and that there is no ultimate hierarchical system. We're all here to learn and grow as souls. And the churches, which now, I want you to, this is going to take a darker tone for some of you people. But you have to understand that there is no sin, so to speak. Because in the Christian Bible, sin, a lot of the stuff, if you also notice, they degrade and bash women a lot. And that is because Christianity is sun worship, because they're actually worshiping the sun. And if you just go and look at some ancient art or paintings, you'll always notice there's a sun halo behind Jesus. It's actually coming up to Christmas there, if you see on the time thing. And you know what that means? That Jesus dies on the cross. Like there's the southern crux in the sky. It's all astrological terms. And as within, so without. As above, so below. And it's important times because it actually links to our psychology, which is deeply rooted in our mind. And that's why a lot of these like Christianity groups and like cults over the world have instilled, they've basically taken something that was pure and spiritual in nature and twisted it to become some kind of like idol worship, which is totally like against what spirituality is actually supposed to be about. And then there's politics, because you have to understand that there was also the separation of church and state. Well, that implies that they were at one time united in the past, and they really still very much are. It's just kind of a public rose-colored glasses, because there's literature out there that says that they've been separated through law, and we are what we read. So if we read it in an article, or if it's law, it is universal truth, right? Even though it's not really. Because the government officials will do things in like need to know national security, which might be completely fucked up. Like, you have no idea. If you're just one of those like magazine reading people, you have no idea some of the dark realms of government and mind control, such as MK Ultra, which they have used to like shatter people's minds, to honeycomb it, and to fracture us so that we can't see the world in this synchronistic, unified view where we see the world as one thing. with all of its timelines and stories, we realize that they're actually united in our globe. But people who have been fractured and divided can't really see the world as whole because they can't even see themselves as whole, if that makes sense to you. Yeah, MK Ultra is used to maintain the thought paradigms in the world. Now, it could be a lot worse, okay? Because we could be like North Korea, and there's a lot of areas in the world that don't even, you know, have YouTube or computers. But I'm not gonna say that it's frigging amazing, awesome either, because we're also more of an experiment, because an experiment on free will. And I do think this is very serious, because like in North Korea and areas of the world, I want you to heavily think on this, the control factor is so great that it's very cut and dry, black and white, okay? And there isn't so much free will of the people. They work for their great leaders, and they have like a very strict matrix of control, okay? Now, in our matrix, it seems like there's a lot less control. Even though all of the magazines and newspapers and everything that's pretty much like that we read, that's not like free information or free thought that we share with like other people, like ourselves, like this right now, this is true information, because you can actually like connect to people on a much deeper level than you're gonna do through text. And text can be corrupted and made infallible, totally false. And yet some people will worship these words on paper and think that they are the words on the paper are more spiritual and pure than you. Now, I want to say, like, this is a zodiac book that I have, okay? All about astrology. And it's one of my favorite ones. But I'm more special than that book. So are you. Anything that's living, breathing, has a perspective, gain knowledge, and has a consciousness inside of it, is more holy than any book that has written with ink. Like, this is how lost many of us have become when we start to feel and think this way, because we project it onto others, and it's like an intricate web, and the people who are in control of the system know how this web works, because like I said with the rising and fallings of cultures, the same too happens to ideas of thought, okay? Now, much like the phone or something, when we put too much dependence, you know, like we no longer memorize people's phone numbers because we don't have to. But now that might seem like a convenience. If we don't have our phone, we don't know those numbers. Really, we actually disempowered ourselves because we became too dependent on the devices. Okay? So don't become too dependent on the devices. Like, meditate, like, find some of these ancient maps, look up ancient zodiacs, read about MK Ultra and some of the darker sides of government, because in order to truly free yourselves from illusions of the darkness, you have to shine light on them. That way you can see them for what they truly are. But, I love you all, and please subscribe and like my channel, and I'll be sure to make more of these.